God has his ways.
Vivify Studio Stories.
The sky lit up with dazzling fireworks. The ambiance echoed with melodious wedding songs. The floor squeaked with the hefty foot-stepping of the dancers present at the wedding. It was an unforgettable night for the Sheikh's family. 25 years of continuous praying and worshipping. The day had finally arrived. It was Sabika's, Sheikh Sahab, younger daughter's, wedding day. The air was filled with the laughter and the chattering of the guests present at the ceremony. Sabika looked jubilant on her big day, and so did Sammy, her would-be future husband. Sabika was not a normal, healthy child by birth. Sabika was deaf and had hearing issues since she was born. Life wasn't easy for Sheikh Sahab family to raise a deaf child. Neither was it easy for Sabika to grow up with this hearing impairment. Sammy was a very shy, soft and kind-hearted person. He loved Sabika a lot and her impairment didn't lessen Sammy's love for her. Sheikh Sahab also looked content on the auspicious day. He was glad that his daughter finally found her life partner. Now he didn't have to fear that his daughter will have no future or will end up being alone all her life. Sheikh Sahab's greatest fear ended with Sammy asking him for his daughter in marriage. Sheikh Sahib was very fond of Sammy and thought he would be a good addition to his family. And Sabika, on the other hand, thought that after 25 years of isolation and hearing impairment, Sammy last week would be her much-awaited relief. But neither did Sabika knew. The wedding was just the beginning of her much more troublesome life. Her wedding day was full of excitement and enthusiasm. It was a good beginning to a new phase of her life. The wedding celebration prolonged for 5 days. Sheikh Sahab got his premises decorated with flowers, lights and candles. Sheikh Sahab Street glowed for consecutive 5 days in a row. There was a continuous hustle-bustle of people in their street. The house porch was covered with red carpet and red rose petals. Soft and subtle music was being played by the musical band. The whole house glittered with Christmas lights in the darkness of the evening. The house glittered and sparkled. The beats of the drums echoed throughout the alley. In the middle of the courtyard sat Sabika, all dressed up in bright yellow clothing. 2 elderly women sat beside her, applying henna on her hands. Her feet were dipped into turmeric milk and rose water. Concussion. Women from their neighborhood gathered and congratulated Sabika for her big day. The women and Sheikh Sahab's relatives showered Sabika with hugs and kisses. Women surrounded Sabika in the courtyard and enchanted traditional songs. The woman stuffed Sabika's mouth with the traditional sweets. Sabika's mother sat right next to her, collecting all the gifts and money that the guests were giving to the new bride. Sammy and Sabika sat together cherishing all the good memories of their wedding day. Photographer kept on clicking and took numerous photographs of the newlywed couple. Sabika was happy, but at the same time skeptical about the future ahead. Her life hasn't been easy, but she tried her best to face her battles with bravery and in form of Sammy. She got herself a cheerleader who hooted and cheered whenever she overcome her battles. Behind every successful man there is a woman, and behind every strong woman there is a man applauding for her. With her official wedding she will be stepping into the unknown battlefield. Obviously Sammy was always there as a protective friend, but the fear of destiny changing was always there at the back of her mind. But Sabika fully trusted Sammy and thought him to be her true life partner. With Samir next to her, she felt as if she could conquer anything in life. The wedding function continued for days as soon as the reception function came to its end. Sammy had already booked the tickets for his and Sabika's honeymoon. Sammy was highly inspired by the beauty of Italy and always thought that Italy would be the best destination for their honeymoon. Sammy and Sabika were highly excited for their honeymoon trip and had planned to travel to various spots. They wanted to have a good start to their married life. Sammy planned on traveling to different parts of the world after his marriage. Both of them had big dreams which they planned on fulfilling together. After the reception day came to an end with waving of goodbyes, Sabika and Samir boarded on their flight and were off for their honeymoon destination. They had a marvelous time on their honeymoon, which continued for a month. After their honeymoon ended, Mika's life came back to their normal routine. Sammy started his job again and Sabika returned to her normal routine. Life was going pretty fine for the newlywed couple, but they did felt as if their family was incomplete. Sammy loved children and he always wished to be a good dad. Sabika was highly fond of children as well and was always in favor of having children at an early age. Motherhood intrigued Sabika a lot, and she was always of this belief that there was nothing more divine than becoming a mother. Sabika was grateful for having Sammy as her life partner, but deep down she wanted her family to expand. Being born with a disability always haunted her, but being a courageous woman, Sabika always thought that she could fight all odds. Sabika was a staunch believer of the idea that after every hardship there comes a relief. She prayed day and night to God to bless her with a healthy child. Days passed by, but Sabika didn't receive any good news. Sammy's family was also getting restless and eager to hear the good news. But days passed by, but Sabika was not blessed with any good news. Sabika and Sammy started growing restless and agitated for not being able to conceive children. Pressurization of their family and friends made Sabika more stressed out. Sammy went into depression seeing Sabika all upset and lost. After days of sleepless nights, Sammy finally decided that Sabika should go and visit a gynecologist. Sammy contacted the best gynecologist in town and booked an appointment for Sabika to get her checkup done. The very next day, Sabika went for her checkup. The doctor thoroughly checked her and took few basic tests. After that, Sabika was free to go home. Sammy, being a good husband, took care of Sabika in every possible way he could, taking Sabika for her regular checkups and making sure that Sabika took her medicine on time. Sabika's in-laws were as much supportive as they could be. After 2 weeks of prolonged waiting, Sabika medical reports arrived. Sabika, seeing the reports, bursted into tears. According to the medical report, Sabika would never be able to become a mother in her lifetime. Samir was disheartened. His biggest dream of becoming a father and entering into fatherhood seemed impossible. He tried calming Sabika down, but he himself was too disheartened. Deep down, it was diagnosed that Sabika was infertile. For the first time, Sammy felt that he had made a huge mistake. In marrying Sabika, all of a sudden Sammy's love for Sabika vanished and deteriorated. Samir became melancholic and aggressive. The idea of spending your whole life together without having a family haunted Samir. He started feeling entrapped and suffocated in the relationship he was in. Sabika and Sammy relationships seemed to be in jeopardy. Sammy's love for Sabika seemed to deteriorate with passing time. Continuous doctor's appointments were making Sammy cranky. Every month, Sammy took Sabika to the doctor for her treatment, but the treatment had no positive results. Sabika was on high dosage of medication. Sammy had to take up 2 jobs to make ends meet. He could feel the financial stress getting heavier and heavier, which made things more complicated for the couple. Sammy had lost all his hope for his relationship that he even hired a lawyer to proceed with the legal process of divorcing Sabika. Sabika, unknowing this, lost all her senses. Her mental state hit the rock bottom. She locked herself up in the room for days and wailed immensely and helplessly. Her snubbing echoed throughout the house. Seeing her life breaking into pieces just shattered. Sabika, she pleaded, for me to rethink about his decision. Sammy seemed adamant on his decision. Rumors were that Sammy also started looking for his second wife. Started an extramarital affair with his female colleague. Sabika, day and night cried and wept for her failing marriage. Her life got distressed and isolated. She prayed day and night for her marriage to survive. But her prayers came back unanswered. Sabika was gradually losing her patience. She felt hopeless, distressed and helpless by her current prevailing situation. Due to stress, Sabika lost immense weight and her eyesight got blurred. Her feeble body shivered late night, but Sammy's love for her had deteriorated immensely. He kept a blind eye for Sabika's health and needs. Sabika shouted in pain during her painful medical procedure with the doctors. Sabika's life was full of mental and physical torture. The physical pain of her treatment and the mental stress of her failing marriage was slowly killing Sabika. Sammy's love for his colleague had blinded him. He spent most of his time with his female friend rather than supporting Sabika through her traumatic phase. It was late night when Sabika cried herself to sleep. Her sleep was interrupted with the crashing sound of the window glass. Sabika startled with this loud sound of broken glass. When she awakened, her ears filled with the howling of the wind blowing. It started raining heavily. The water flooded the house and the ground was covered with snow. From the hailstorm it seemed as if there was a thunderstorm. The floor of the house trembled and squeaked. Sabika covered her ears from the loud thunder clapping. Sabika hurriedly switched on the television. The newscasters announced that a hurricane will hit Amalfi coastline later that night. Sabika trembled in fearing the storm. The house trembled and shook violently. Sabika clenched Sammy tightly in fear. The winds howled and wailed. The pitter-pattering of the rain got heavier and heavier. The roof of the house squeaked. The wall of the ground collided due to the wind. Russia, Sabika and Sammy rushed to the basement and locked themselves. The basement ceiling collapsed and Sammy and Sabika fainted under the rubbles of the collision. Sammy and Sabika opened their eyes and found themselves laying on the hospital bed. The doctors checked both of them and told them that they were totally fine, safe and healthy. The doctors informed them that after the hurricane wrecked their home and the surrounding areas, the rescue team rescued the survivors of the hurricane from the rubbles of the houses and buildings. Sabika sat on the emergency ward bed, surrounded by all the survivors of the catastrophe. To Sabika's greatest amazement, Sabika could hear the hustle and bustle of the medical ward. Speaker could clearly hear what the doctors were saying and talking to Sammy about. She wasn't wearing her hearing aid, but still, she could hear people around her. She questioned the doctors about her hearing. The doctors told her that the loud clapping of the thunderstorm and the traumatic experience of the disaster had actually healed her hearing defect. Sabika was jubilant on hearing this. This was the first time that she heard Sammy's voice and the chattering of the people around her. After a week, Sabika and Samir fully recovered from their injuries and the hospital faculty discharged them from the hospital. Sabika and Sammy exited the ward. On their way they came across a cradle in which 2-month-old child laid. Sabika found the child to be very cute. Sabika inquired about the child from the nurse. The nurse informed them that the child was rescued from the rubble. Unfortunately, his parents died in the catastrophe, leaving this child behind as an orphan. Soon the hospital management will be handing this child to an orphanage. Hearing this, Sabika told the management that she is willing to adopt the kid and take him in her custody till he is alive. Rather than sending him to an orphanage, Sabika and Sammy adopted the kid. The hurricane turned out to be a blessing for Sabika and Sammy. Not only this hurricane returns Sabika's hearing, but Sabika became a mother to the child who came in the hurricane. Later on, Sabika was also informed that Sammy's ladylove couldn't survive the tragedy that hit their area. She died and her body is missing. Sammy and Sabika's failing marriage mended due to the devastating event. Surely when God responds, he responds in mysterious ways. Certainly God has his own ways in responding back. And God finally responded due to Sabika's pleading.